Hey everyone, what's up? It's Tara Live, and guess what? We are down here at the Hemp Expo in Tri-Cities here. The Hemp and Health Expo in Tri-Cities, Washington. And we've got CJ, a really awesome glass blower behind me. Check it out. I'm going to turn around and I am going to let you guys see all this amazing glass he's got to show right here. Check this out. It's beautiful. It's got some amazing detail going on in this stuff. Hope you can see it. It is gorgeous. Check those out. Gorgeous. What's up, Bingo Lombardi? Welcome to the party. Look at that. Isn't that beautiful? Look at those pendants. Gorgeous. Some Sherlocks. Look at that rainbow. Gorgeous. Look at this guy from the Puffco Peak. That one in the back. Isn't that beautiful? That guy. What's up, Dutch? How you doing, my brother? How's Zooey? What's up, Zooey and Slammer? Hey, Smash, how you doing? What's up? Checking in, checking in. Here we are. We're down at the Hemp Expo. We got CJ, glass blower right here. Make sure I'm not standing in anybody's way here. How you guys doing? It's been so awesome. Now I can finally talk to my chat. How y'all doing? I know I've been in classes all day. I haven't been able to talk to you. I'd be quiet. So here we are. We're checking in with CJ right here. Down here, he's got a glass blowing booth here. And he's out of Richland, Washington, local. I'm guessing he's on Instagram as well. Go check him out. Some awesome detail on these things, guys. Go follow this guy on Instagram. Go tell me you saw him at the Hemp Expo right here on my channel. Go follow him. You're good, Tom.
How you doing?
Good, how are you?
Doing well.
You talking tomorrow?
Good.
We dabbing later?
I'll smoke a joint with you. I don't know.
Oh, you don't dab?
I'll dab for show, but that's about it.
Ah,
If some top dog says, "Oh, farmer, you gotta try this," I'll do it. But I like my joint.
That's all right. You guys, some of you are all.
When I was a kid,
Hey,
I had a goal.
everybody
To be able
has
to
their
grow
own.
as much weed as I could smoke all year and still have plenty left. You know, just smoke at will. You know, and I'm there. So
Yeah, yeah. Hey, that's all right. Everybody has their own way of
well, you
consuming.
know, and you know, it's such a healing plant, and it's really receptive to the energies around it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So basically, if you grow, you're growing that plant for you.
Yep.
You know, and the energies that are around it. So like when we did patients back in the day, we'd have all the patients send over something that meant something to them. You know what I mean? So their energy would be in the garden.
Exactly.
So that's why everybody says they grow the best weed in the world, because they grow the best weed in the world for them.
Yep.
Pretty cut and dry.
I have a buddy that's a glass blower, and he'll come out to Washington from Oregon. But the moment his jar gets dry, he has to go.
He's gone.
The weed that we have doesn't do it.
No.
It's not his weed.
Right? That's the way I am with my weed too. I'm good until, you know, I'm good till I ran out of weed, or running low on weed. You know, I tell people, man, when I hit a quarter pound, I panic.
When I'm scraping the bottom of my dab bowl, I'm going. I'm pressing more tomorrow.
Right? No, we have a big process. We make bubble hash, ice hash every year. You know, the trim for what's left from the year before, and then the trim from the fresh trim.
Yeah.
And so we always have, like, I must have, I don't know, 50 pucks, frozen pucks in my freezer.
Really?
Oh yeah,
Well,
I've
never made bubble yet.
Of all
I
these
haven't made
different
bubble
hashes.
yet.
And then when I want to do it, we whip out the micro.
All right, I'm
planer,
following Tom home.
and then we fill up the pizza box and we stack them in the living room, and we're smoking hash.
Party's going to Tom's after this. That's funny.
Well, what's cool is like every year, you know, I've been harvesting the last week or so. I mean, I really come to these shows just to.
This is who you guys are
get a
talking
rest.
to. We're talking to Tom
get a
right here,
rest.
Farmer Tom. You guys, I already recorded Farmer Tom earlier at the Cultivation Classic. If you want to go back and watch that presentation, you can see him there on my channel.
All right. Just Google Farmer Tom for more information.
There you go.
There you go.
Lisa says, "Hey, Farmer Tom."
Hey, hey.
Okay, well, should we make our way to the other class? I'm gonna turn you guys around, and I'm gonna show you guys the rest of the event here. We're gonna walk on out this way, and then we're gonna head into the class. I'll show you guys a little bit what they have out here. They got a little bit of goodie stuff for the girls over here, some foo stuff. There we go. And we got a Club Fitness here, more stuff over here. We got the Cloud Wave guys. These guys over here. Hello. Huh. How you guys doing today? Having a good show? Awesome. Here's some more pipes. Beautiful glass. All kinds of glass. Glass. Okay, and let's see. Over here, this side, we got massages, more CBD products. Woo! Come down and have a back massage. Look at these girls. Put them to work.
Itself, or like an explosion.
Got some more stuff over here. CBD. And then this was the other booth. Earlier we recorded them talking. And we're actually going to probably do an interview with these guys. So there we go, guys. Okay, so headed in. We're going to head into the class over here. I don't know if it started yet.
4:30, I think.
Okay, let's see if it's started yet. Okay. Nope, they haven't started yet. Okay. Haven't started yet.
Not before I do this.
I think. Actually, I'm going to set up over here because I'm going to plug in.
Oh, thanks.
Okay.
Don't, and the thing I'm thinking about is don't expect, is I think what you said earlier, don't expect to have a deal like this.
No.
Because you need to figure yourself out.
Yeah, and you know, it's,
I went to in Junction.
yeah,
A big conference,
sure.
and there were a huge room full of farmers who were going for the first time. And they all thought that they were going to do gangbusters first year.
Oh, yeah. I'm working with, I have about 15 forward contracts with farmers around the country where I give them seeds and the settler comes at the end. And I was doing email newsletters every few weeks going, okay, they're about to flower, here's what to look for. You pulled the mails,
Okay,
now look
hey
for the
guys,
Hermes.
getting set up
You know,
for the
and
next
just-
class.
They were all, well, most of
It's
them.
going to be.
had
Let me go
never
look at it.
Right. And they were switching
Actually,
over
I'll
from
take you to
one
go.
Yes,
Here.
so,
Let's go over there really
and,
quick.
and it was funny because
It is going to be the next class. Okay. We're setting up for hemp. What's all the talk about? There we go. That's what we're setting up for. So, and then this is tomorrow. What's going to be going on? Here we go. Okay. So, I think we've got. Should be starting any minute.
Right.
and so it's molding, it's bourbons. You're not done. You then have to put it in close containers every once a day for a couple of weeks until it's all stamped drop right.
And they can run that stuff.
Oh, that's what the newsletters are about. But yeah.
But they would.
Oh, no.
They think it's tomato.
Oh, I know. And they sort of argue, you know, it's like, well, what you want, I don't care.
Right. You do. But you
I do, but I don't, yeah. So, yeah. Cool.
That's the Jerry.
My pleasure.
I'm gonna stick around and listen to you talk.
All right. So I'll give it 2 more minutes. My name is Jerry Whiting. I, of course, don't have the right cable to connect to the printer, but I was wise enough, having taught before, to print out my slides so I know what the hell I'm going to talk about. This is going to be about industrial hemp, which is what I do full-time. And yeah, so I'll give it a couple more minutes to wait for stragglers and we'll launch into it. It's supposed to be half an hour, 3 days.
Half an hour.
Half an hour. I better talk fast.
Unless I'm wrong. I don't know. I didn't put.
Oh, no,
I think
no.
on the website it does say 12 to 5 each day.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
With
I
lunch.
mean, I don't know if they'll pick us out, but.
With lunch, right?
No, it'll be fun.
How long does this go, Mike?
Half an hour, right? Keep going. All right, cool. So my name is Jerry Whiting. I own a company called LeBlanc C&E. cannabis negociant éleveur. We are growers and brokers. We started out in medical marijuana here in Washington State, and then transitioned about 3 years ago to working with hemp. I began because 2 of my 3 kids developed seizure disorders with the onset of adolescence, and my middle son, Coleman, threw his green card on the table and asked for Dad's help transitioning from pharma to cannabis. The reason he knew I would be open to that is that I've been hanging with the plant for 50 years now, and I used to practice acupuncture before doing software for 30 years, and I've been doing herbology for 40-some years. So a good friend of mine is Marty Lee, the head of Project CBD, who stays with my wife and I during Hemp Fest. After Coleman said, how do I do this? I don't know all of it, but once again, Marty is staying with us during Hemp Fest. Marty stayed with us for 6 days. At the end of that, I knew a little bit about CBD. He also left me with a mason jar. I want to say it was Amarita, but one of the early CBD strains. Now the lesson for me was 40-some years, puff, puff, stone, puff, 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 I'm really high. With CBD, puff, 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 I feel great, but I'm not impaired. And so being a nerd, I began to delve into the science. So I write a column in Northwest Leaf on hemp every month. I guess the one I just turned in yesterday was the 13th. I put it last October. So I'd like to talk about hemp. Hemp's a big deal. It's the foot in the door for the whole plant for Cannabis sativa L, drug cultivars, as well as non-intoxicating plants. And there's a lot of disinformation on the interweb. I'd like to set some straight. So CBD is everywhere you turn. It's in grocery stores, it's in mini marts, it's all over the place. There's a lot of confusion. So I'd like to set the record straight. So many people talk indica indica hybrid sativa, which nowadays is not botanically or taxonomically correct. It's been hybridized and screwed with for so long that you really can't apply that model. When I use the term indica or sativa, I'm talking about one of 2 things. Either the effect that it has on you, it's an adjective, or an adverb, but an adjective when I talk about Jupiter Midwest was a cultivar that we grew this summer. It looks like an indica in that it is short and stout, triangular like a Christmas tree, and after that first 24-inch bamboo stake, even though we're in a wind tunnel in Ellensburg, 15, 20 mile an hour sustained winds, it never broke, it never bent, unlike some other cultivars. So we describe Jupiter Midwest as indica-like in terms of its structure. There are indicas, there are sativas. I have a huge seed bank. I don't smoke no new hybrids. I only smoke Acapulco Gold and Panama Red and all that other stuff, and it is out there. So the modern description of the botany and taxonomy of Cannabis sativa L. Type 1, type 2, type 3. Type 1 plants are drug cultivars, they are THC dominant. Type 3 plants are hemp-like or hemp in that they are CBD dominant. Type 2 are mixed. When you look at the lab results for cannabinoid profiles from a lab in aggregate, they will bunch up into high CBD ones, 1-to-1s, and CBD. There are some in those troughs that are, somewhere in between, but truly, type 1, type 2, type 3 is a preferred nomenclature and paradigm to describe cannabis. So, what's hemp? I describe hemp. So the Agricultural Improvement Act of 2018, aka the Farm Bill, defined hemp as number 1, no longer Schedule 1 under the DEA, but Schedule 5 under the FDA and everybody except the feds who bust down doors. So here's the split. I explain hemp as an extreme type 3, no THC, lots of CBD. Not all type 3s are legally hemp because hemp is defined by the Farm Bill as less than 0.3% delta 9 THC by dry weight. It is not total THC. So when you get a lab report, you're going to see the total THC in the upper left and the total CBD in the upper right. Everyone gloms onto the big bold print. There's only, why delta 9 THC, Jerry? Well, it's our favorite cannabinoid because it's the intoxicating. It's one of the intoxicating ones. Delta 8, delta 11 are also intoxicating. When you eat cannabis and goes through your liver, THCA is converted to delta 11, which is why you have that slow ramp up, longer and slow come down, as opposed to hitting the joint where you get that, whoa! So, Mitch McConnell, I'm not Republican, not even close, December 20th, the Farm Bill was signed by 45, the orange one. Both Republicans were, for 24 hours, my heroes, because we now have hemp, part of cannabis sativa L, the extreme type 3 being legal. We can grow it, we can ship it internationally. I've shipped it, believe it or not, through DHL to Nigeria. The guy at the counter goes, what are you going to declare? They're seeds. What kind? Hemp. Let me get back. But I had paperwork and, you know, the lab results and everything. So when I talk about cannabis sativa L, marijuana was a term used by Harry Anslinger to demonize cannabis by associating it with Mexican Americans. Because if it's dark, it must be evil. So many of us use the word cannabis to talk about the drug cultivar and hemp to talk about the CBD-rich industrial stuff. But not all hemp has CBD of marketable quantities. It can also be used food, fuel, fiber, hempcrete, and a bunch of other stuff. So cannabis gets you stoned, hemp gets you well. Okay? So I grew up in Ohio and Michigan. When we were kids, all those many decades ago, we pulled on the side of the road and picked one of two things out of a farmer's field. We learned that all corn is not edible. Popcorn, sweet corn, yes. Thought we were going to have corn for dinner. It was field corn. Damn near broke our teeth. We also would come across ditchweed, which are surviving plants, domestic feral plants from hemp for victory. The Japanese took over the Philippines. We had no way to make rope for the Navy, so we didn't retake the Philippines until too late. We paid farmers to grow hemp to make rope. Birds have kept that feral hemp alive all these years, back for 70 years. It's great. Of course, not only did the field corn not make it to the dinner table, when we smoked ditchweed, you got a headache, you never got stoned. Took us a few times to figure it out, but you know, we were teenagers. So, the other thing is, everyone after Sanjay Gupta's show with Charlotte Figge and Charlotte's Web and seizures is fixated on one cannabinoid, one component in cannabis. That is cannabidiol. It's a wonderful compound, you know, but it's not the end-all be-all. For me, as a processor, it's the legal loophole I can drive my pickup truck through, because if it doesn't get you stoned, I can make medicine with cannabis, I mean hemp, I mean who cares? If it doesn't get you high, I get away with it. And you do too, okay? So I make tinctures, I have different formulations, topicals and other. The only formulation I can't make with hemp is the third one, which is THC-centric for people with cancer. Yes, the U.S. government owns the patent for CBD and breast cancer. Nixon empowered the Schaefer Commission to give him scientific proof that cannabis was evil because it was a weapon used against the anti-war movement and the Black Panther Party. They came back and said, boss, not only is it not bad, it's good. In fact, we filed a patent on your behalf. He was furious. 5066307, I think, is the number. While CBD does have anti-tumoral effects, it is far eclipsed by THC. THC causes cancer cells to self-destruct. I treat cancer, adults with cancer and kids with seizures. Adults need THC to get well, and kids need CBD to not flop like fish on the ground. So the only thing I can't make out of my repertoire is my third formulation, which requires cannabis, not hemp, and I still make that formulation because you gotta throw tea in the harbor if you're a patriot sometimes. So the fact that I'm a processor in 502. I make recreational hashish. I don't make cancer medicine in 502. I make it personal, and that's that. But everything else I make, both topical and tincture, is made with hemp. Hemp today, unlike the ditchweed of old, has terpenes and flavonoids and so there's like 75 to closer to 100 cannabinoids in cannabis sativa now. There are up to 200 terpenes and countless flavonoids and other compounds, and it brings on this synergetic effect called the entourage effect. And it's the entourage effect that describes why different strains taste and act differently based on the terpenes and the cannabinoid ratios. But you can get almost, put it this way, even though I can't legally use marijuana when I make medicine, everything else except cancer is addressed just fine when I use hemp. Because they're hemp cultivars. Oh, another thing. Everyone talks about strains. Strains is off the list. Bacteria and virus have strains. Plants have cultivars and varieties. There are no strains in pot. It's not your fault, but it's wrong. And it makes me nervous when I hear people say it. So the modern hemp cultivars that people are selling products out there, they are full of CBD, and in many cases, terpenes, flavonoids, and a bunch of other stuff. How full? Well, my trigger point is 10% CBD by dry weight is, economically, it's worth buying or growing, and bioactivity-wise, it's worth making medicine. Some cultivars have 14, 16% CBD by weight, which is good and bad. The plant makes this chemical called CBG, and then through THC synthase and CBD synthase, it makes a bunch of other cascading things. Well, there's only so much CBG. It can make 100% cannabinoids or 100% terpenes or a mix. So if you're making all of this CBD, you're not making as many terpenes. So here's the difference. THC and CBD, Project CBD calls the power couple. They are by far the most important cannabinoids. Two descriptions. I say the cannabinoids provide the heavy lifting, but the terpenes color the experience. Analogous to, we can all agree that 440 cycles per second is a concert A. It sounds one way in a tuning fork and another way in a harp, and definitely a third way in a heavy metal guitar. The oscillator shows 440 vibrations a second, but the emotional, visceral experience of a cathedral organ versus a harmonica couldn't be more different. So cannabinoids are the heavy lifting, their expression is through the terpenes. Another friend, Josh Kincaid, says the cannabinoids are the engine and the terpenes are the steering wheel. You're going to go down the street, but are you going to look like a drunk guy, or are you going to go in a straight line or make the curve? So either way, you need both to get a full effect. Again, modern hemp cultivars are full of terpenes, so much so that my youngest son said, "Dad, I'd like some hemp to add to my pot so I get CBD when I smoke." So I gave him P11 and Lifter, Lifter being the cultivar of the year in Oregon last year. He came back and went, "Dude, if you didn't tell me, I would have paid $200 an ounce. That tastes just like pot." Well, poodles and chihuahuas may look different, but they're canines. And hemp and cannabis, the same deal. So yes, some of these cultivars taste great. That's not why I make medicine with them, because if they have terpenes, they steer the car, they color that concert A. And I can say, oh, this has got linalool and limonene, this is going to be a calming one, it's got beta-carotene and this. And so you can tune the medicine based on the chemistry. I could go on, but you don't want to hear that. Let's talk about today. So today we've got people cultivating cannabis legally in all but a handful of states. I think 4 at last count. This year, since the Farm Bill was signed, it is off the hook. I'm a broker. I'm laughing my butt off. So, how many? We have about 17,000 licensees in the U.S., licensed to grow 500,000 acres. About half of that, 250,000 acres, got planted. Half of that 250,000 will never see the light of day, because the last 2 years, have worked with farmers, Carhartt, pickup trucks, tractors. Never seen a pot plant, never gotten high, but they're going to make $40,000 an acre like Colorado and Oregon did. No, you're not. No, you're not. So, unfortunately, I work with farmers. I want them to succeed. I don't care what their lifestyle is, but they can grow corn and soybeans and tomatoes and everything else. They've never seen a pot plant, and they unfortunately don't have very good luck. So, half of Tennessee's hemp went moldy. They couldn't harvest it and dry it and cure it properly. I see that all the time. So there's only a handful of people who really grow good CBD hemp seeds. I know many of them. They sold out at the end of last year. So when the Farm Bill got signed in December, what were you going to buy? Came to me, I had some for you. Most people bought shit. They bought pot seeds, they bought stuff with low germination. Heaven forbid it wasn't feminized, you got males. Or just didn't pop at all. And so at $1 a seed and 2,400 seeds an acre, if you plant 20 acres, forget everything else, that's serious money that's gonna go down the toilet. So half of Hawaii's harvest was destroyed by the state because it was over 0.3. Half of Tennessee's went moldy. Last year, Colorado, Oregon, guess the third state in terms of total hemp grown last year? Montana! Now ask me how much of that ever saw the light of day. I've talked to other brokers going, so dude, I've seen Vermont, New York, I've seen a bunch of stuff. Have you seen anything from Montana? The answer was, well, just because you own 1,000 acres doesn't mean you plant 500 in hemp. It's not like wheat. So it molded, it was used for bedding and animal food. None of it ever left the state. Yeah, it's grim. Because farmers are they had bad weather this year, and they've got trade wars, and it's just a drag. So, let's see. So this is the year when industrial hemp has become yet another bulk agricultural commodity. I read the Wall Street Journal. I'm now reading farm reports in my mailbox every morning, following the snows in the northern plain states and the dent level of corn and all this stuff. And I'm just learning, but the group of brokers I work with, we're looking at this as to how hemp is going to fit in, and it's going to be a while. I had a software company until a few months ago for 30 years, and I wrote barcode software. I know how the global supply chain works because I wrote software for 3 decades. I've talked to everyone who does. Fortune 1000. So the problem is, you didn't come up through 4-H learning how to grow hemp, and your county extension agent doesn't even know how to spell it. And the Department of Ag person for every state, I've talked to several of them, Nevada, Oregon, New Mexico, they're lovely people. They're usually the experienced people in the Department of Ag assigned to this new crop because the new kids don't know shit. Unfortunately, that ag person, and I had an inspection of my farm by the person here at Ag, and I sent email saying, I'm the head grower for a license. I have some questions, but the person who owns the license I work with filed the application. It was the front voice, which means I was the bad cop and she was the good cop. And so the ag person in Washington needs to be schooled. They don't know what end is up. And that's unfortunate. So no 4-H, Department of Ag is winging it, and the Grange and every other farm institution needs to play catch up. And that's a drag, because the people who grow hemp successfully are pot growers. And that's just a fact, because we know the plant really well. So we're waiting for I have a friend in the peninsula who grew 10 acres of fiber, who is now trying to move it to a hops dryer in Moxie. And we talked yesterday, and he talked about the logistics of moving totes in a rental truck 220 miles. I mean, and the problem was, they filled the totes, it's a grain crop, but they're gonna take the dust from the mechanization, the combine and the dryer, because that's keef, and that has cannabinoids. The problem is, when he had 5 people helping to fill these totes, and then put those on a 26-foot truck. The problem is, by the time they got the truck loaded and he went home to sleep, which was his problem, his mistake, the stuff in the middle of the truck got hot as it began to break down, and he sent me a photo of the hops dryer, 24 by 24, 2 feet deep. Some of the stuff had already turned brown. It began to compost, began to break down. Our conclusion was, next year I'm gonna start leasing trucks and take all that's what I'm gonna do. That's part of the broker negotiate elevator. I'm a grower broker, I mean, I need to move from the farm to the market. Either a reefer, idling, so that when you put the last tote in, you slam the door and drive. You also can't sleep overnight, and we realized you have 18 hours, because he doesn't have, and no farmer has dry capacity for a hemp crop except the people who grew tobacco or who grandpa grew tobacco, and they have sheds. So there's a whole disconnect between people growing way too much, not knowing what they're growing, having unrealistic expectations of duplicating the $40,000 an acre that Oregon and Colorado growers have gotten. They have a 3 or 4 year head start. So it'll get there. The motto at LeBlanc is, we're going to have great success buying other people's failures. Part of the problem is the 2018 harvest is still in the channel. Lots of it, literally tons of it. Isolate and distillate, which they pull out the CBD, the prices dropped by 50% in less than a year, and there's hundreds of pounds of that sitting on shelves all over the country. And supply and demand. Now, here's the rule, write this down. I don't care how much you like pot, I don't care how much you're advanced with hemp. None of it can ever violate Econ 101. So supply and demand, just like everything else. So when I see literally 18 harvest in the channel, and people calling me going, Jerry, you still doing this? I grew 40 acres and my buddy down the road has 110 acres. I'll get emotional and start talking like a sailor. It's pretty intense. We're going to get a large wipeout rate of people who tried to grow hemp this year for the first time. Many will not come back, which is unfortunate. I want them to have hemp in their rotation. I want them to be part of this wave as fiber, either for wood replacement or textiles, or hempcrete takes off. Hemp is food. All this stuff comes from Manitoba. Tilray just bought the company. So when you buy hemp seeds in the orange and white pack in the grocery store, or the green and white pack in Costco, or the blue and white pack in grocery outlet, flip it over. It all comes from Manitoba. There were 5 Mennonite farmers who said, you guys can't grow hemp? They came out of retirement and said, let us show you how to do it. They were so successful, Tilray just bought them. But there's little hemp, so 85% of the 250,000 acres was planted for CBD, about 12% for food rather, and about 3% for fiber. I'm planting fiber next year. I've already got just buckets of fiber seeds. CBD, I'm telling farmers, use it as your learning curve for a new crop, because you will make money. You may not make 40,000 an acre, in fact, I know you won't. For instance, I bought really good quality biomass, flour to make medicine last year out of Oregon, $80 a pound. We're now seeing, oh my God, we're seeing the 2019 harvest come in at like Someone offered me 14% at like $28.75. Can you just say $30? But it's like, dude, you can't make any money at that point. But that's okay. So we're going to see the people who come back next year, and especially in 2021, have it dialed in. Because if you keep failing, you're going to give up. The other thing is, conventional farming relies on toxic chemicals like Roundup. It is a given. People like me want to see three things. The COA, the cannabinoid terpene level from the lab. I want to see heavy metal, and I want to see pesticides. Because I work with a group of brokers from a couple of states. We all chatter. And the agreement is, A, we're not going to screw each other, because we're really friends, and B, we don't touch dirty stuff. So if you don't have clean bill of health for heavy metals and pesticides, conversation over. Unfortunately, so the reason Monsanto, now Bayer, made a lot of money, Roundup needs to be sprayed on a regular basis because it breaks down quickly. It's the metabolite that it breaks down to that lingers in the soil. There is a way to bioremediate it, but it's not with hemp. You can't grow hemp and pull it out. That's heavy metal radioactivity. And so a lot of new farmers, even if they don't spray Roundup this year, the metabolite will show up in the lab results, and a lot of us just won't touch it. Why? Because the hemp movement was founded by hippies, by stoners, and our values and our lifestyle come with this. And we all just say, hey, look, we don't have to. Now, the farmers that come back next year and the year after are going to learn, oh, I have to have good seeds, have the infrastructure to harvest and dry the crop, but I also have to transition to organic. The other problem is, John, there's been a 75-year break in hemp cultivation in the U.S. John Deere has no attachment to mechanize the harvest. So the more you grow, the harder it is, because many people are harvesting hemp flower like wine grapes by hand. Labor, money, people. And that's a limiting factor. There are people, oh, and the kicker is, you heard it here first. Yakima County is going to be the Silicon Valley of hemp.
Really?
For two reasons. They look at us and laugh. I'm a beer nerd, so, dude, you're picking this by, we grow hops, we train it, and we have machines, top cutters and bale cutters. There's a whole infrastructure. You've never heard of that, have you? Oh, so there are people in Yakima County who go, dude, there's a hole, there's a vacuum, we can fill it. I'm a third generation hemp guy, and I know how to make the machines. And so you're going to see hemp farm equipment is already being developed in Yakima County. Yes. Number two, so I'm a beer nerd. My buddies and I drink on Tuesday afternoons at microbreweries. And those people, like people running CO2 machines to make cannabis oil, are pouring in whole flowers, hops cores, like the whole flower. Anheuser-Busch, InBev, Miller, they ain't doing it that way. They pelletize it. Two reasons. When you grind it and press it into pellets, everything in that truck is uniform. They're not better flowers and worse flowers, and it's all the same. It's also smaller, takes up less space, and it's easier to transport. The real difference is, when you're making factory beer, you've got a bin on the upstairs floor and a big chute and conveyor belts. Ain't no one seen the flower, let alone touched the flower, because it's all push button. When hemp becomes, when it goes to scale, and I should have brought some. I actually have hemp pellets out of Colorado. The problem is, this farm, like everybody else, watches YouTube videos, and they made the pellets as if they were for a wood stove. So they're hard, the solvent can't get in, but I don't want to burn it slow in a wood stove. I want it to be spongy so that alcohol or carbon dioxide in a CO2 machine, whatever the solvent is, can extract it. We gave the farmer the feedback. He said, we'll take a hammer and crush it. Dude, make it right. It'll get there. So we're seeing this I don't want to say miracle crop, but it is a big deal. Whether it's replacement for plastics, whether it's replacement for, and the example is always toilet paper. But if you substitute hemp for trees in making building materials, paper alone, that's a huge thing. 25% of the world's pesticides are used for cotton. Cotton's a horrible crop for the planet. When we begin to substitute hemp for that, hemp doesn't need the pesticides because as opposed to 2,400 plants an acre, 5 feet on center for CBD, a Christmas tree farm, hemp for fiber is planted, so a pound of seeds covers 10 acres when grown for CBD. It takes 20 to 25 pounds of seed per acre to grow fiber. Why? Close together, it blocks out the light and the weeds never have a chance. Not that it's some miracle plant, it just elbows everybody. You're in the paint throwing elbows in the playoffs. So you're gonna see reduced pesticide use because nobody wants CBD with Monsanto, with Roundup, or should I say Roundup with a side order of CBD. And it's a crop that lends itself to not using pesticides and overly fertilized stuff when you're going in for fiber. So again, it's here to stay, it's legal. CBD is the tip of the iceberg. Because you want the same medicine today that she had last week, you can't have different farms growing different things, bringing all these products to bear that aren't the same on the shelf. It's going to end up being consolidated, and that's okay as long as we get a chance to play the game, not big pharma. The other thing is that you're going to see the different cultivars of hemp grown in different parts of the country. Not so much because of the terroir, the climate, the soil. Dude, if I'm in California, Colorado, Oregon, and I'm growing pot, I definitely don't want you growing hemp next door and cross-pollinate, called pollen drift. So the established cannabis states with plantations of pot don't want hemp around. And here's the kicker. When you're growing for the Delta 9 THC that gets stoned, the most resin comes from female plants. So if you plant regular non-feminized seeds, you're pulling males. Fiber, complete opposite. So Patagonia and Levi's have announced denim jeans. I wear jeans, I dressed up.
Hemp jeans?
Yeah, hemp jeans, brother. Who gives a shit? I want to grow the fiber that makes those $400 blouses from Eileen Fisher in the New York Times Sunday magazine. That's where the margin is. The best fiber comes from males. So if I grow hemp for fiber, I'm pulling girls in my field, and it's only going to make sense if I grow acreage. So the people who grow fiber are going to be in states that don't grow pot.
What about seeds?
It's like cattle and cattlemen and hating sheep farmers, sheep ranchers. So, and the nice thing is, nice as it may be, they're unliberated territory. The Mason-Dixon and the Plain states lack recreational or medical marijuana. There isn't pot growing in those states, and there's big chunks of land. So, and lastly, everyone says, oh, well, and I lobbied for several points in the hemp bill in Washington, and I said, so the barrier between hemp and cannabis, dudes, you argue about 3 versus 5 miles. The last few summers, Seattle has enjoyed lovely sunsets thanks to forest fires hundreds of miles away. Pollen is light and made to travel in the wind. So if you think being 3 miles away from your pot neighbor will let your hemp or other way around, you're fooling yourself. That isn't science. So we're going to see the localization of different industries based on who your neighbors are. And it will be a big business. It's not going anywhere. It will, some of us get really excited about hemp will save the world. If we can reduce part of the clear cutting, a big chunk of the plastics, if we can get people, I wrote a column in Northwest Leaf about the Impossible Burger, and that if nothing else, it opens the, and I love the fact it's being sold at fast food restaurants. And my thing was, so is it okay if I get bacon on my Impossible Burger? The idea is that a lot of people, vegetarians since the 70s, a lot of people lined up to buy this stuff. What it says to me is, people are now open to plant-based foods. And it takes a lot less land and a lot fewer resources to eat plants compared to feedlots and cattle. So if hemp gets a boost because people are getting Impossible Burger at fast food with fries and a Coke, great. It's a win for everyone. And I guess I'm going to stop there and take questions, because I could go on obviously for hours about hemp. Yes.
You said the federal government took and got patents on the hemp?
No, so patents, there's two kinds. Utility patents are the ones we fear. Oh, so, I come from software, intellectual property licensing and all that. And, yeah, there's some legal issues around GW Pharmaceutical and Epidiolex that recognized by the FDA seizure medicine, which they're going to, like, North Dakota, where no one's paying attention, to get laws put into effect that sets the precedent for them being the only CBD medicine. Patents, Charlotte's Web just filed a patent on one of their cultivars a couple of weeks ago. I get excited because I wrote Cannabis Breeders' Rights, an open source licensing schema for hemp and cannabis to prevent this kind of stuff. Patents are okay in the right situation. My fear is that 6 seed companies own the bulk of what we eat. That ain't right. And we've lost, Visit for Citizen seed savers and small farms, a lot of these heirloom things would never be grown. That's completely wrong. We are guardians of this beautiful planet, and God forbid multinationals dictate what we grow and what we eat. And so I'm adamant about this stuff staying in people's hands, not in corporations' hands, because our interests do not overlap. And gone and extinct is forever. So I collect hemp for victory, World War II feral hemp, because it is fiber. It was brought over here to replace what the Philippines were providing for rope. Number 2, I have it from different states, and I know that if you're in, what do I have? I have Missouri, and I've worked somewhere else. I don't care where your address is, what your address is, what zip code, what county. So, because it's naturalized to that terroir, thanks to birds, for 70 years. So we do have, arguably, land-raised fiber hemp in the U.S. We need to preserve that. What do? The police are paid to go burn this stuff every blankety-blank fall. So I'm online going, okay, so I hear that it's a noxious weed.
Have you
But it's also illegal.
Have you collected out of Iowa yet? I have a friend that has some.
I would love some.
Okay.
I said I have a huge seed bank, and stuff comes to me from all over the world, and including pollen. In the land of hens, somebody needs a rooster. So I get the phone call. Hey, I have a friend who's got Panama Black. It's a male. Would you? Hell yeah! Give me the address. So I have a seed bank. I have a genetic collection. I have mothers that are parked in Denver with a friend. I've got tons of seeds, and yes, they're in multiple locations. And I have pollen, which, I had a friend who I work with call and go, hey, I've got something going. What kind of pollen can you share? Oh, I think this will be a good matchup. Which one of these do you want? So patents are bad news, and I don't want the big 6 seed companies to own hemp and cannabis as they do everything we eat, because it's wrong.
So these people are getting into hemp, even if there's going to be a hard knocks.
Yeah.
Have they started any kind of organized co-op or, you know, to fend off the bigger companies.
You're looking at one of them.
Lobby.
So I have so you a farmer? Okay, so
Yeah, I'm a farmer. I got
Okay,
a few head
so-
of steer and a bunch of sheep.
So I grew up in Cleveland, and so when I was a kid, Toledo, Ohio was where Campbell's made tomato soup. Between Cleveland and Toledo along Lake Erie are a bunch of, at that point, coal-fired greenhouses. And those farmers did futures contracts. I'll pay you now, you owe me 100 bushels of tomato on harvest. Whether you made money or not, I get my 100 bushels of tomatoes. That's farmer hustler. I do whether forward contracts with farmers, where I say, look, here are the seeds. I'm gonna coach you all summer. You screwed up, I'll give you replacement seeds, but the remuneration comes at the end. And so I have about 5 or 6 forwards in Washington, Oregon, here in Cascadia, but I've got a dozen in the East Coast, all of whom are black farmers. And I made an effort to go to black farmers and say, only 1.3% of American farms are owned by African Americans. They're smaller, they're poorer. USDA has fucked us over for generations. So, I'm gonna help you get in on this thing. I'm gonna give you seeds. You blew them, I'm gonna give you do-over seeds. I'm gonna send you a newsletter 10 days before they flower, 10 days before harvest, coaching you through this. The remuneration is, if you're successful, I get 10% of the harvest. And if you play the game this year,
cool.
you get to come back next year. Well, they're bringing twice as many farmers to the table next year. So, and they say, we want you to broker. No. You realize that Ocean Spray and Sunkist and Land, those are all co-ops. I want you to organize and sell it yourself. You have a story to tell, you have a brand. And the real thing is, I talk about my forward farmers as a virtual plantation. I have my own thing, but they're part of it, you know, and I cut last week, they did too. By the time they dry and ship to me, November, I'm gonna start getting pounds sent to me from these forward contracts. I use the term virtual plantation deliberately because I'm gonna transition them from CBD to fiber, and I want black farmers to grow fiber in the land of slavery and cotton.
So is that gonna be a problem?
bet.
Oh, some friends have said, Jerry, to the degree that you're successful, you will be a target. Bring it on. I'm a black man from Cleveland. I don't give a shit. But no, I want farmers to grow good genetics and to market it themselves and to cut out the middle person, and I get approached by Big Al. I hear you. Yeah, I know. You've heard that I got this. I'm not interested. The last one was the wonderful company, the pomegranate juice in the hourglass bottles, the pistachios in the produce section of the black and green bottles. They're big in the Central Valley growing almonds, which drops the water table. Bee colony collapsed because all the bees go to the Central Valley to pollinate the almond harvest. It's the worst in monoculture. I tell these guys, take a long walk out for sure. You are the enemy.
What are they trying to get from you?
It's genetics.
Of course.
Oh no, and I don't even have a business card. You have to know someone who knows me. I don't want you to find me, unless we're supposed to. My phone rings enough. Ask my wife. You know, harvest time, I get in the shower at 1 in the afternoon, I'm sitting on the phone, yeah, got 100 acres, big deal. But when they call and go, hey, what will it take? There is no price. There's no price on this. Because if I give you the seeds, I give you the plant and give you the power. And that consolidation of power is only going to do evil. You know, it's ABCD, what is it? Archer Daniels Midland, Bayer, ABC, Cargill, and Dreyfus. You know, and then there's the Chinese company. These people are like, no.
Monsters.
No, they're just horrible. They're horrible. And no, there's no price. So yeah, so the whole patent thing and the whole pyramid with a handful of companies at the top and we're suffering at the bottom. Kids today call people like me democratic socialists.
So, do you know any specific cultivars that are good, that are crossovers for textile and cannabinoids right now?
Yes, there are dual and tri-purpose crops. There are fiber cultivars that, so two answers to the question. So everyone grows 5 feet on center, Christmas tree farm style, to get side growth for maximum flower yield for CBD. If you grow it close together, Christmas tree trunk. If you grow it close together, it's what I call birthday candle. You'll get a tall stalk, no side growth, and a cola at the top. The nice thing is that lends itself to cutting off the top 6 or 8 inches with the machine, then going back after you handle that and cutting the stalk. I also use the root to make a topical oil. So I always, like I'm stopping on the way home tomorrow and digging up the roots of my farm in Ellensburg. So yes, there are, I'm trying to get my hands on old Italian fiber cultivars that have marketable amounts of CBD and CBG, the new cannabinoid everybody wants.
Right.
And there are, I have a friend I'll see over in the peninsula next week who's growing the seed crop. It's a monoecious varietal that has cannabinoids, but he wants the seeds to press oil. And so he's the one trying to get it shipped from the peninsula to Moxie to the hops dryer, and he's having trouble getting both the seeds out and the fiber because the neighbor with the combine doesn't want to come and cut because he's got noxious weeds in the field. And he's faced with the prospect of they're hand stripping the flowers, but he wants the stalks, and no one will use a machine, and he's faced with hand cutting it. Well, I'm going to go over and help him for a day because he's a good guy, but I also want some of the fiber, and we're going to do a seed exchange. And
There's seriously not a million other combines out there that you guys can't
well,
find
but if
one?
you look on the interweb, here's the deal. Because we grow hemp for the fiber,
Right.
when it gets caught up in a machine,
It's really bad. Yeah, it's
Oh,
bad.
it
Yeah,
catches
it
fire.
will ruin it. Yeah. I have
no,
heard that.
it'll catch fire.
Oh, it will catch
Yeah,
fire.
oh no!
okay.
I was in NOCO, Colorado, and they had the big machines outside of the Look, if you walk in the parking lot, there'd be a couple of big machines, you know,
Uh-huh.
the farmer thing, a couple of years ago. And I heard you guys talking, and it's like, high tech, they would say, never buy low reg numbers. That first release, not so good. So they built this huge ass thing, and then the fiber gets caught up in the gears and the wheels. Hemp fiber, and if you ever played with, I don't mean pot, which is like a debutante,
It all
white
burns.
gloves. Hemp is like an Amazonian, Rosie the Riveter. I love these plants, they're completely different. But the fiber acts as kindling. You know, like rubbing a flint over,
Yeah.
and it catches fire. So
Wow.
that's why we need machines dedicated to hemp. Now they're in Germany and France. France has been big into this, but the U.S. Why would John Deere grow or make an add-on or a tool for a crop you can't legally grow?
Well, not only that, they couldn't get a loan right now for it.
Well, yeah, but also there's also the other thing is for fiber. There was a column I wrote. I turned it in yesterday. So it'll be Northwest Leaf November issue. Hempcrete. I'm shocked. How many people mention hempcrete? When we're doing hemp, you're doing hempcrete. It's like, how do you know about? Because no one's ever. People say that 1 in 7 Americans has experienced CBD. None of us seen hemp. I have. No one's seen hempcrete, but people are dying to use it. The issue is, you take so the bast is that green outer layer, and the hurd is the stuff in the center. The hurd is what you want for fiber, for hempcrete and flooring and stuff. So the machines are called decordicators. Decordicators. The problem is, we don't have any in this country. The Canadians do. The cheapest one is $2.1 million. They come onto your farm.
Yes, County already developed them, or you said they're going to develop
No,
them?
they exist, but not in the U.S. So the Canadians have some. In fact, I got an email because there's only a handful of hemp farmers in Washington. A little late on this, won't use names, but they said, hey, if we get enough people together, we can bring this machine to Washington State to decordicate your stuff. Well, no one planted fiber. You're telling us as we're harvesting that we can get in on this machine. He'd have told us in January to order the seeds, to plant them, to have something to decordicate. So the rule of thumb is, if the farm is more than 100 miles from the processor, logistics and transportation eats into your profits. Since no one has a decorticator, why would you ever grow fiber that you can't use? Well, I'm going to help Kyle hand cut his old school style so that I can start retting this stuff so I can make $400 blouse fiber for the market. There's a way to do it, and if it means doing it by hand the way it was done 300 years ago, okay, fine.
Did you see the poster upstairs? It's kind of in front of the speakers area, and it says grow hemp.
Yeah.
And it has number 1, number 2, number 3, and it's grown for seed, where they have big combines
Right.
and cut it down. But that isn't applicable on anything, any other.
Yeah, but there's the logistics and the challenges posed by harvesting hemp. You're
For seed.
for seed. Yeah, it's
They made it look like
it ain't easy.
a kid's club.
Oh yeah, it's total bullshit. The Canadian machines, the corticator is $2.1 million. Now there's a guy in Poland who picked up where an older gentleman left off and has one that's about this long and this wide. We're putting it down on a table, and you feed stuff through it. It will get into the U.S. about $12,000. Part of me wants to either rob a mini mart or play the lottery just to buy one
So
for
you
barbecue.
want to invest?
You know.
wanna go and invest in one?
Well,
Yeah,
I'm
our
still funded. I don't want outside
generation.
investors.
Couldn't you modify a corn combine?
You want to do it? I'll sell it for you.
You should be able to do that and put solid belts, keep the.
I heard a story yesterday about a combine in, where else am I? They're in either Oregon or Colorado, and there was a metal bar across the front of the machine that kept breaking because the hemp fiber was strong enough to break. I mean, you have to, I'm saving my stock paper maker who's making, paper with it, and I've got my living room, she's being patient with me, it's got this growing pile of stocks, because I want to, play the retting game in my backyard, let it mold and pull the mold that I want, because it makes better quality fiber, but I also want to go help Kyle saying, all right, so without a machine, we're doing it totally old school, National Geographic, the way it's been done for hundreds of years.
Bobcat makes the gills for cutting the poles for the hops.
Yeah.
It grabs it and cuts it off, and then you throw it where
The
you want.
fiber is different. It burns machines, it breaks steel bars. I swear to God, play with hemp. If you know pot is like that debutante with the white gloves that, it's just it's what I call a high maintenance girl. Hemp is like a badass Rosie the River Amazonian truck driver. It's wonderful. I totally resonate. I mean, I love pot. I love growing it, but
You can't,
oh no,
you
it's.
can't do that.
Which is why we're using it for all these construction purposes. It's wonderful. Anyway, I see all of this shaking out in 2 years. This is the first time in 75, 80 years that people have grown hemp around the country. And most people who are growing it, have never seen a pot plant, and they've definitely never grown hemp. So these farmers come in with an attitude, well, I can grow anything. No, you can't. And I can bet that 2/3 you're going to fail.
Well, I'm looking forward.
That's what I want to, but
I'm looking forward to seeing your garments on the runway.
I know.
Oh,
His
yeah.
yoga pants, they'll make you look
I
at
gotta-
If they did a whole one show where they had to use all hemp material, that would be pretty cool, and that would probably boost the.
there are people, there's a mother-daughter team out of Colorado, Barbara Mom and Sunshine, her daughter, who have, you didn't hear this here, last I saw them, they were already talking to the patent attorney about their decorticator.
Their what?
Their decorticator.
Ah.
And they're growing in both Colorado and Oregon, bulk fiber. And I know them well, and they are for real. But this stuff, so I come from high tech, and my company began in the kitchen table. Our nanny was the first employee. I grew to a decent sized company, but I'm that guy. So I look at this, and I have the same lawyer for LeBlanc that I had for Azalea Software. And to me, it's the same deal. It's intellectual property, ones and zeros, intellectual property, DNA, and formulations. That's why I won't tell her how I make my medicine. It's a trade secret. It's an NDA yet. That's the same NDA I have with software. So yes, it will get there. Both the genetics will get there, the fabrication for machinery will get there, and the whole supply chain. One of my partners and I both come from software sales, and we're looking around going, there's 5 people between the farmer and the processor. Not all of you knuckleheads are brokers, but if any one of you breaks the communication, it's like that string of Christmas tree lights. The whole tree goes dark. So just because you know someone who has a roommate whose, brother-in-law grows hemp, doesn't make you a broker. So we're going to have a simplified, like everything else, because again, it's not a unicorn shitting gold nuggets under the rainbow. It's another bulk agricultural commodity. So the farmer in Chimacum had the problem, he called every trucking company in the yellow pages, and they wouldn't touch it because it's hemp. Now it's legal. Now, Amtrak will. The post office had a couple of, they've even made it more liberal. They said you had to put the lab results in the package. Then they said, if you can produce the lab results that proves it's hemp after we question you, that's good enough.
Wow.
And I shipped a pound of hemp seeds through DHL to Nigeria. PayPal held the money up for weeks because it was Nigeria. I had a question with another broker, but I went in with paper. I had the lab results, I had the organic certification from the farmer, I had the COA, I had my invoice with everybody's name and address, and I had in 4 colors the order from the Nigerian Agricultural Commission. And I went to DHL, the guy at the counter, what are you declaring seeds? What kind of hemp? I gotta go check. And boss came out, grabbed the paper, went to the back for longer than I was comfortable, came back and said, yeah, you're right. Have a nice day. And it got there. So we're going to see a supply chain where I don't have to argue with every manager everywhere I go. It's soybeans, it's wheat. And it's great because a lot of people, the largest demographic of cannabis are the AARP generation. They're older Americans looking for medical relief, not a buzz. The largest, I have a topical oil for aches and pains, and I have a bunch of tinctures for people who are sick. What's the easiest thing to sell? Aches and pains, because every old person has them. People who chase their kids around for years getting high, wave their finger at their grandkids for doing dabs, and they can't wait to buy hemp-based medicine. Eventually, they're going to realize, oh, so one's a collie and one's a Saint Bernard, but they're all cannabis? Oh, I guess marijuana isn't that bad after all. Oh yeah, and it'll take, I look at it now, I'm 65, 50 years with the plant. I'll last 25 more years, 15 of which will be productive. I have my work cut out for me.
So if hemp is so strong and stuff, can animals eat it? Cows?
Yes.
Or whatever?
Yes. Now the FDA comes in and says, Food, Drug, Cosmetic Act, we have control over pet products as well. So they haven't come down with the ruling on food, though they say that tinctures, while taken orally, are not food, God bless them. And animals, they've already sent letters. There were 3 companies that made CBD dog treats, for lack of a better term, animal things, 4 years ago. 2 of the 3 were in Seattle. And one of them was a husband and wife vet team. Both of them were veterinarians. They got the, remember, you can't do this, any more than I saw an ad online today for another product that had a testimonial. You can't do that. The FDA said on December 20th, you cannot make health claims, especially cancer, even the government owns the patent on it and knows that it works, and testimonials are not allowed either. I went out and solicited from my patients to use in my marketing, realized, oh shit, I can only describe in very non-specific terms what it is. I can't tell you what it does.
Isn't that the same packaging laws as maybe a OTC or supplement?
And here's the deal. So they're still treating cannabis, pot, hemp, as different. So the triggers are food, especially gummies and candy in kids, ascribing health healing benefits, especially cancer, and mixing cannabis or hemp with alcohol. Those are the red buttons for the feds. Now, I gotta say, I think this is totally speculative, but no one's argued with me, or they haven't in public. So I think given a do-over, the FDA would get in front of Red Bull and all these energy drinks. I look at the list of ingredients, it's like, A, I don't recognize half of them, and what they do is a cocktail, who the hell knows? And people, to be polite, are using them as mixers in bars. You want Red Bull with, or coffees, you know. So that's number one. And 1A and 1B is when the FDA sees water-soluble CBD or THC, they must blanch, because it's like the roofie. You would never know what's in there. You know, you would never taste it or see it. I have friends who are deep into it. So I think that the FDA has reason to, but Congress is pushing them for clarification, because everybody wants a tax break. So they're gonna have to hurry up and figure out what the official policy is. Food, they're gonna, I mean, New York City Health Department has shut down all the coffee houses that had a drop of CBD in your coffee. They shut that shit down.
Are you familiar with who sits on the FDA that's regulating or coming up with our rules around?
No, but the interim, so that soon after the Farm Bill, the head of the FDA quit for unspecified reasons, and the interim head was from the National Cancer Institute. And I have not followed, because I don't want to know. I'll deal with it when it happens. I have had friends who have testified before the FDA, Zoe from Project CBD and others. Not my deal. It's going to be, it would be a big deal when they come down with rules. Not necessarily good or bad, but it's going to consolidate them. It's going to take some products out of the market. I don't know what those are, but I'm looking at the vape thing. It's because there's bad actors putting trash in the channel, and I know this for a fact. I know who, and I'm not saying anymore. But it's prompting the state to ban flavored products. But terpenes from hemp are okay. So we're going to see some nuanced decisions, some good, some not so informed or educated, let alone realistic. But the lack of science behind some of this stuff just appalls me, because it's like, you don't get it, do you? I mean, the Farm Bill talks about testing both deep carb and undecarb raw, and it's like, it's two different things, and the chemistry is completely different, and Washington takes advantage of the dumb one. And when I asked as the bad cop, the person at Ag, it's like, you do that, there's basically, it's, so the plant makes the acid forms of THC and CBD. THC acid, CBD acid. While they have healing effects, THC acid doesn't get you stoned. Decarbing it does, and the way to remove that carboxyl group is to heat it. So the first person who used a hemp bush as kindling got stoned. When you smoke, THCA becomes delta 9 and you get high. So some states say the number under the chromatography machine needs to be weighted based on the relative molecular weights of the two versions. It's like, that's so dumb. It doesn't work that way for a bunch of reasons I won't get into now. So there's some ambiguity, there's some pseudoscience, and many of the people making decisions, like the 4-H and the county extension agent, they have no background, and they're charged with coming up with rules and regs for this huge industry, which they are unprepared to wrap their arms around, let alone make informed decisions to guide us into the future. So I'm hoping people, they didn't have no, and some of the things I see, I just can't. I just write a column, I have a podcast, I talk, but I'm not going to DC or Olympia.
So, out of curiosity, why is it that they use the word terpenes when isn't it kind of like essential oils, and maybe more the general public would understand essential oils maybe a little bit better? I was just
Because
curious
essential
about
oils
that.
and hydrosols, all these things are it's sort of like
I know it's all how it's extracted, but
right.
it's
And the terpenes are the big deal. And chemically, it's the right definition, and the most experience and research has been about terpenes in relation to cannabinoids and cannabis, hemp, cannabis, whatever. There are also flavonoids and a bunch of other
Right.
compounds that we haven't gotten to yet in a mass conversation. But my workflow is what I call aggressively whole plant. I don't want chlorophyll, I want everything else. And I work really, really hard, and my results prove it, to get, and it's not just CBD.
so maybe because essential oils haven't been fractionated off enough, they're not
But it's
as
not-
as
But when you're making,
isolated?
but when you're using a CO2 machine, or I was shopping for a steam distillation unit on the drive over here, you're not making an EO. It's,
Right.
It's more specific than that. People are doing short path to pull specific things out. And like I've got a hydrosol of lavender at home because I use linalool. I think I threw it out. I mean, I really want, when I formulate, I know what I want and how much of it and what I don't want. And yeah, I mean,
it's just isolated more and more.
yeah, it's
yeah.
more selective.
Yeah, you're able to get exactly the molecule
What I
that you're
want.
looking for. Yeah, exactly.
I
Versus
don't
so maybe
distillate.
essential oil would be more of a full body complex or something. Maybe if someone was to ask
So
the question.
tell me why I want to use an essential oil. As
No,
opposed
I'm
to
not
detergent.
saying that you.
No, that's why in terms
Yeah,
of me,
yeah.
I'm aware, as I said, I was.
I guess the thought would be to put it in easier terminology, especially since
No, chemistry. We
It's
don't
not
want.
correct.
We want denotation. Not. I mean, I don't want. In the same way that I always say, cultivar variety
Over strain,
and never
right.
strain.
Right.
Because we've been lied to and there's been so much disinformation, and the interweb is full of bullshit. I mean, it's just how to decarb. First of all, it's not 20 minutes at 170 degrees. There's a paper from GW Pharmaceutical that has 2 tables in the back. Time and temperature. The sweet spot is 90 minutes at 285 degrees. So 70 or 20 minutes for 170 is nowhere near close. So to start mixing terms and using convenient vocabulary in the end doesn't do
I get you. Totally
anybody
got
any
you.
good.
Yeah, totally
And that's
get you.
why I'm
Yeah.
really
That makes
dogmatic
sense.
and anal about, no, it's not a strain. It's a cultivar.
Very cool.
Thank you so much.
Can we use them in our garden and feed to our animals?
If you have a license, because this is not a state that allows home grow of any cannabis product, including cannabis.
No, have it home.
Noxious weed.
Yeah.
So how does one go get a license to it? Is it a big long
So
process
bag,
for the hemp? For
the Department of Ag does it. You can get I would suggest getting the license now because December or January 1st it will roll over into the new license, which there is no application. So yeah, it's like $800.
What's the fee for that?
I think it's $800. I need to get mine to roll it over. I'm growing under, I work for Pup and Farm in the rec sense, and then I have a garden outside.
If
of
I
the
have a
fence.
medical ticket,
you can grow
You
it
can
as
grow
a
that.
medical patient.
Yes,
grow
yes,
myself.
yes,
I was
yes.
just asking if someone didn't have a medical. That's
Yeah,
what I was asking.
other than that, it's through the Department of Ag, and
Yeah.
get the soon to be extinct one because it will go over to the new one.
Thank you very much. I was actually recording you live on YouTube with my
Oh!
audience here, and they were like really loving your chat, and they were talking up a storm back up here, like they were very entertaining. So there you go.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, so entirely live on YouTube, you can see yourself.
Cool. Can you send me the link?
Do you have a business card?
I can give you this.
And then I'll email it to you. How about that?
Yeah, that works.
And then also, yeah, those the wireless seats as well.
Oh, you'll be rewarded for that.
Okay.
So I am LeBlancCNE.com, LeBlancCNE@Gmail, LeBlancCNE Instagram, everything else. But I answer email and everything. I'm a software guy.
Okay, awesome.
I would, you'll be.
Would you ever like to do an interview sometime maybe on
I'd
our
love to.
YouTube channel?
Yes.
Okay, that'd be perfect. Let's
Yeah.
do that. Let's follow up and
Where do
I'll
you
list
live?
it. In Mosley.
Oh, I may be growing up in
Nice, where at?
those. There's a 502 farm.
Nice.
I'm actually doing, I know the head grower, an old friend of mine. He's the one building a tiny house on that land. And wants to do hemp creek on the insides, that's what I'm saving.
Oh, very
Stock
cool.
for him. And I work at Puffin, and Puffin and Cascade Nova tie it together. There's some 502 processors who are basically family.
Very nice.
So, while their farm is in Moses Lake, their offices are rented from Puffin in Seattle.
Oh, okay.
We're all.
Yeah,
So their
there's
oil
there's
is
a
made
lot
by
of-
us,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
I say us, but I'm not.
Well, you're affiliated, it's all.
Yeah, we call Siamese twins, joined at the hip, thinking independently.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Because you have to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I work under licenses, both cannabis and hemp. I'll get my license in the next 2 weeks, but Puffin actively, and then 2 other farmers I work with. I know one has a license, the other might 2. But yeah, there are at least a dozen 502 producers who are also hemp farmers. And now LCD did the right thing and said,
Well, and
you
I
can now grow
also-
hemp inside of the fence under the camera.
Yes, I have a friend up in Bellingham who's doing that. He's a 50.
Oh, yeah. Actually, the one that's doing it's Sasquatch Greenhouse in Ferndale. It's done a lot.
Very nice.
I set her up with seeds.
Do you know about the Regenerative Conference?
Yes.
Okay, so I actually help, and I'm going to be traveling around and help doing the lives for that conference
Oh,
this
cool.
year. And I'm friends with Joshua Rutherford.
Yes.
And then Kevin Jodry.
Of course, yeah, I've been a pot. Kevin's my homeboy.
I took him to Congo from BC.
Oh, yeah.
And I just met up with him last year.
Oh, yeah, Kevin and I go way back. Yeah,
He's awesome.
Kevin's the bomb diggity.
Guy. Oh, he's
Yeah.
just a sweetheart. Yeah.
Yeah, he's
So awesome.
fantastic.
Yeah, I can't wait to see him for the Regenerative Conference. Yeah.
Yeah,
So are you going to that?
No, you know, I'm taking time off. I cut my stuff down. I have, so with the forwards, as they try and send me my share, it can end up being 1,000 to 2,000 pounds. And so I'm going to see mom.
Well, the Regenerative Conference is until the first of the year. There's
Yeah,
one in the BC, and then
yeah,
there's the. You're out. You got this.
Hey, guys, come on, gotta go.
I also
Oh,
need-
we're out of here.
Yeah, I also need to like,
See your family?
yeah, have a real life.
I get it.
Thank you.
All right. We're out of here. Hey, guys. I'm going to end the video. Sorry. Bye. We're out of here. See you another time.